right? Because at the end of the day, business owners have the best job, but the hardest job. And no matter what you think, it is always your fault. That's probably one of the hardest lessons I've learned. Always your fault. I don't care if the employee messed up. What did you not do to prepare them?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to season 4 of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream like they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO services, consulting, and accounting. Now, this is season 4, where we are focusing on companies who've either bought, sold, scaling, or just excelling all around and just doing a great job. So, like I told y'all, I've had a couple of episodes now, and I've met a nice amount of people. But there's one of my people, and I've known this guy for a while. He's actually a current client, and his journey's just been phenomenal. I think so many times we always think like in 1 year, I'm going to go from zero to $1 million or, 0 to 50 grand. And I just know that this person has just been steady. He's done it the right way. I know he hasn't cheated anybody, and he's just been super consistent to grow his business. No, I'm not going to tell y'all the numbers and how much he makes. That's on him to say. But I know he's doing it the right way. We travel together. We're in some of the same groups, like our wives know each other, etc. So I'm like, bro, why don't you come on and tell people? Because I think they got this false sense of security or like false sense of hope that, not saying it can't happen, but ideally your story is the way to do it. So with that being said, Tyler Lordi is here.
What's happening?
All right, tell the people, if they don't know you like I do, tell the people name of business, and who you help.
Yeah, I'm Tyler Lordi. I own Grit Media Group and also partner of Detailing Growth, and our main niche is auto detailers.
Okay, so tell us, how'd you get started? So give us a little bit of background, like parents, you're working before, or did you come straight out of high school and start this? Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, I think I've probably been an entrepreneur at heart from my dad, right? So out of college, I got one of those degrees that doesn't mean anything, and I was probably at a bar celebrating graduation when my dad called me and said, "Hey, you're going to come work for me," and I didn't have a job, so that's what I did. I went to go work for Pop, and I think my first day was ripping cardboard in the warehouse. So definitely started from the bottom. He, put a really solid work ethic in me. I learned a lot about business, literally from the ground up, growing a business from $1 million to 5 over the 7 years that I was there, learning literally every aspect of the business. It was cool because I learned a lot of old school tactics, right? It wasn't anything. My dad was, an old soul, right? So he had literally a Rolodex on his desk that he would use. And there wasn't any online presence or anything. So we would butt heads a lot of, hey, we got to get into the new age, right? Do all the new things related to marketing. And eventually over the time, he wanted to hand the business over, and I decided to move into another direction where I went the full online route, started my own business, and kind of the rest has been history. So that's kind of how I got my start.
Okay, now wait. See, we got to go there because a lot of people are probably thinking like, wait, you worked from ground zero, worked your way up, and then he wants to hand you the keys to the kingdom, but you said no. Tell us
Yeah.
why. I know this story, y'all, but I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. Go tell the people why.
So, I mean, it really kind of boiled down to one defining moment where, I mean, at the time I was working 3 jobs, right? Well, 2 and then the agency, right? So I was working for my dad full time. I was coaching soccer, right? So I'd get up at 5, work from like 6 to 4, go to the soccer field at 6 to 9, get home at 10, then work on my agency till like 2 in the morning, right? And one day I got home from work and I had to rush to soccer, and I think he was probably 1 or 2 at the time. My oldest son was holding a baseball and a baseball bat and said, "Daddy, will you play with me?" And like it just destroyed me because I couldn't. I threw him a pitch or two, but I had to leave. And I think that moment alone pushed me to do the agency full time. So when shortly after, I decided that I was going to quit and go off on my own, my dad tried to obviously get me to stay and then offer me the business. But I wanted to make sure that family was first and foremost
But
the
that's your
goal of
family.
mine.
That's your dad. You came from him.
I know, and like I said, I owe probably everything to him. He's taught me so much, and it was probably the hardest decision of my life turning that down. Like, here's a $5 million company, just like take it and run with it. Uh, it was the scariest thing ever, too, right? Because I didn't know how to pay rent the next month. So the cool thing is when your back's against the wall, you do some pretty cool things. And I think I made more money that next month off of my own than I did my first year working for him. So, although again, I owe everything to him. He's taught me so much of business and life. It was just that time. I think hats off to him even more so that I left because he prepped me for being the man I am today in just general life, but in business first, so yeah, hardest decision ever, but also the most rewarding decision because it's gotten to us where gotten to a point where um, we can go on vacation. We can. I'm hanging out with the kids all the time. If my son has a baseball bat and a ball in his hand, I'm going to play baseball, even if it's like if he calls me in an hour, I'm going to go do it. You know what I mean? So the difference between then and now is night and day.
Okay, okay. So then, okay, now mind you, you said son, so clearly, I know this, married. So talk about that because, of course, at this stage, then that means you got a little kid, got a wife, and you're leaving the constant check that you're used to
Yeah,
getting all the time. And it's like,
we had
I'm,
one on the way as well.
yeah. So it's like, how did she kind of reconcile that? And like, what were those conversations?
I mean, luckily, my wife knew I was crazy when she met me, and she was just she was bought in from the I think the moment she saw me. It was funny because she basically asked me out. It wasn't the other way around. So like, not many people know that, but she's been my biggest supporter through everything, through all the crazy stuff we did in college at businesses and just like side hustles, and then obviously the agency. Um, a funny story that if you don't know. When I started the agency journey, it was a course that was like $5,000, and I was on the phone with this guy who was selling it, and I snuck downstairs to grab my wallet, and she was on the couch, and she was like, "Hey, why are you sneaking your wallet upstairs?" And I was like, and so I was trying to hide it from her, but luckily we had an honest conversation. She was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." And so like that's just like our relationship. She 100% supportive. Don't hide anything from your wife, basically what I'm saying. But she's the biggest reason that of our success to this day because she's luckily taking care of the kids and supporting me. She jokes that she's really the CEO or the CEO of the business, but
We're not going to argue with that.
we're not going to argue with that.
We're not going to argue with it. Okay, so then you're now starting your own thing. Okay, we made a good amount of money. So tell us, what is that first 6 months to a year like? Because you're leaving this infrastructure that was already kind of pre planned. I just had
Mm,
to come in and do my job versus like, oh crap, I got to build it and I got to do it with my own money. Like, walk us through that mental transition because a lot of people struggle going from working corporate and now trying to do your own thing.
yeah. Yeah, I think people see the dream and they go, "This is going to be easier. Oh, it's just going to come." And man, the first year minimum was an absolute grind, right? Like the long hours didn't go away necessarily. Yeah, you have more freedoms here and there, but like it was a grind. Um, and that was back when my wife was even doing the business with me. Um, she would be on calls as well, and we would literally just do anything and everything to obviously grow the team, grow the clients, and deliver. So that was back to like when I was doing everything, building the websites, the SEO, the ads. Um, yeah, there's nothing looking back on it. There's nothing like shiny and cool and nice about it. It's just an absolute grind.
Yeah. Okay, okay. So now you're out of year one. You kind of figuring out like, okay, I'm good at this. I can make this work. Now start kind of bringing us to present day. What are some of the
Mhm.
things that kind of started to help you on your journey?
Well, I think again, I came from a business background with my dad, and he taught me a lot about people and business and things that things that I knew I wanted to do differently too. Right. So not all good things, but
Well, yeah, let's list them, list them. So, because a lot of people gonna say, well, just do what he did to get to 5 million, and you should
yeah,
be able to do
no.
the same thing.
Again, and not that my dad wasn't family first. My dad did everything for his family, but it was more of like a disconnected um thing. Whereas like I wanted to make sure I was connected. I didn't want to be the dad that wasn't around ever, right? And just provided like stuff. And so the biggest thing that I learned, I think, was put people first, right? Like create a team that you can be proud of, that you take care of your people, they're going to take care of you, right? And they're going to build the business. So one of the earliest things I did, probably even in that first year, I can't remember the exact date. It might have been 9 months later or so, but I hired my first SEO manager, and I was fortunate enough. I didn't do it the traditional route. Again, I got just like my wife bought in, right? I got someone else to buy in with me and kind of go along the journey and the hardships with me. And so like I paid him basically commission as an SEO manager, and we started off with like 2 clients. Right now we have 120 clients, but we were just on our weekly call on Monday, and kind of in awe of where we started and where we are now, because he's still here today. And so that was the best early decision, is bring someone in that you can grow with. And so I'm proud to have that same employee from 4 5 years ago.
Okay, yeah, that's unheard of nowadays. A lot of people try to jump ship. So let's talk about that, because to your point, now you built it. It's been sustainable. We know you've grown. So like walk us through some of these culture things, because to have somebody stay with you for 5 years from the jump, and I know you have other team members, like walk us through kind of maybe some of the cultural lessons you learned from your dad's company, maybe some of the things you were like, oh, I'm gonna definitely keep this, versus some of the things you had it in on your own.
Yeah, right. Like as a business owner, we have the hardest job. We have to we got to make the tough decisions and be the boss, but be a leader that is going to take care of people, and understand that, again, people grow your business. And if you treat it like you're the only one that can grow your business, then you're going to be limited in what you can do. And I always was in awe of my dad for what he did just himself. I was probably the first person after 25 years of him growing the business that he kind of like started to let go. But beyond me, there really wasn't anybody else. And so, um, again, I think just taking care of the people um, was the biggest lesson I learned. I didn't want to make the same mistakes of just like treating people as a number, and that like, oh, I can always get a replacement. I'm a big believer in Zig Ziglar, give enough people what they want, you can have everything in life that you want, to a certain point there. Um, so that's kind of how I treat the team and the culture. And, obviously it's different because we were all in an office and worked in the same warehouse together. Now going online and being all over the world with employees, so different. And so one of the biggest things we did was create that like virtual office where we all hang out and chat, and you could just hop into someone's office and, just talk about whatever, obviously the work at hand. And so like every morning meeting, we chop it up, we have fun, we joke. And um, I think it really hit me this beginning of this year when we took 2 weeks off from the holidays, and everyone came in laughing, having fun. People were like, I never had a break that long. This is awesome. And then they were ready to get to work, excited. And it just hit me, I think, this year where it's like, that's something I'm super proud of.
Hey, okay. Now, a lot of people don't know this until, of course, they start working with you. You work with your brother,
I do. Yeah. Yeah. We get a lot of, hey, I didn't know that was your brother.
the
Yeah.
infamous brother. Okay,
Yeah.
tell the
Yeah.
people What is that like to work with a sibling? Because some people are like, I would never do that. Some people, and with you being the owner, it was clearly your choice to hire. It wasn't forced upon you. So, like, walk us through kind of why would you hire your sibling and kind of how he's fit in and that whole scenario there.
Yeah. My brother worked part time for my dad here and there as well. We learned a lot, like I said, together of things that we didn't want to mess up in the future. And so I think we went into this knowing some of the bad, but also some of the good. Um, and to be honest, it started out just part time. Like brother graduated college, and he's like, "Hey, I need some part time work." Yeah, of course I'm going to help you out. Like here you go. And it got to a point where it's like, "Hey, like you could be really good at this. Like you want to go full time." And so we just kicked that off. And don't get me wrong, like it's not all, glorious. Like we butt heads too, but we have that mutual understanding and respect for each other. We have the business hat on at times, and obviously the brother hat on. Luckily, we both have business phones and personal phones, so like we know if we're calling the personal phone, like it's personal time. If it's business, it's business. And so like we have boundaries, and we've learned, you know, uh, we've learned when it's time for hard conversations, and then when it's time to be casual. And there's just the mutual respect. So it hasn't always been easy, but I think learning from the past, working for a family business originally, we've learned a lot quickly, and probably quicker than most. But it's just like a business partnership. Like there's bad business partnerships and good ones, and same thing working with family. Like it can absolutely work out. I think you just have to be willing to have the boundaries and hard conversations ultimately.
Yeah, because just in case y'all don't know, which y'all don't, like them two together, just imagine hearing jokes nonstop, cracking jokes. Then you hear some story about remember back when mom or dad. It's a whole thing. So
Yep.
you should definitely go get tacos with the Lordi brothers. I would say because they are funny. All right, let's go into it. So, okay, we kind of talked through like starting the agency, walking into current. Now, let's start talking about some of the more, I guess, tactical things because I think one of the things that you've kind of hinted at is like, yeah, I learned from my dad and he was doing great, but I still kind of had to forge my own path. What's one money lesson you had to learn the hard way that you wish somebody would have told you earlier?
I think the biggest one, and it's interesting, right? Because like this year, my word is stewardship, right? Um, and before, or even in the first couple of years of business, we kind of just we were just winging it. And my mindset was, oh, well, we can always just make more money, right? And so that was probably the biggest money lesson I've learned is you have to protect your profit, right? A lot of that's from you. Um, and that's being a good steward of what you're given. And it's not just me anymore. Like, and I think I probably was reckless in some of those decisions because it was just me, or maybe just me and one person. But now with a full blown team, um, I have them to think about too, right? And not just protecting, my pocket, but overall business health, so that way I can take care of the team, because I see them as a family now. So that's probably the biggest money lesson.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's talk about this. All right. 12 months from now. So we're in 2027 in 12 months. What's
Crazy.
one big win that you're like, I would love to be celebrating because you've grown the team, you've hit the fancy numbers and all of that. Like you said, now you're able to go play for an hour or take vacations. So, what is something that a person at your level would be wanting to aim for and want to be celebrating in 12 months?
It's one of those things I've always kind of fought with, right? Because I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, we just chase revenue. We want to see the biggest numbers possible. I think over the years and recently, I've wanted just more time and freedom. Um, and so I think one of the biggest goals that I would have over the next year, through helping my employees reach their goals, is how can I put the rest of the pieces in place to where I can be in a strict leadership role in the business, and everything else runs, smoothly from, fulfillment all the way through to sales.
Which is funny, y'all, because this was like 2 times ago when we met. He was like, "Man, I took a vacation and they didn't need me at all." So talk about that though, because you're so used to being the front person to now having built something that doesn't. Like, walk us through that, because that's a very hard transition for a lot of people.
Yeah, and again, that's just having the right people in place. And I'm super fortunate to have, Connor, my brother. Don't tell him I said that, but no, super fortunate to have him, and he's taken that burden on to really lead the team. And so if I were to go away for a week or two, and I always ask the team, like, can I go away for 3 weeks or 4 weeks? And they're like, yeah, yeah, nothing will happen. Um, like, that's how I tested it. I'm like, hey, what would happen if I went away for a week? What would happen if I went away for 2 weeks? And so on. So I'll ask them randomly, and they know like why I'm asking. In the beginning, it was like, no, 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 don't do that. Right. But like now with Connor there, they're like, yeah, we don't even need you anymore. So just having the right people in place, and not just Connor, but the other team members. Like, I look at our core group, and I look at them as a leader of their role. Like,
Okay, break that down for us, because some people
yeah,
may say, "Well, what is that? Is that a CSM? Is that an account rep? Like, kind of, what are these main crucial roles that you need to have?" Because a lot of people say what you're saying, which is, "I want more time. I want to be able to take off for a week or two, but I don't feel like I can." They are missing what positions enable to do that and facilitate that.
yeah. And so I always tell people, like, if I'm good at one thing, it's usually delegating and creating the right pieces. And I'm sure someone's way better, right? But my first hire again was a SEO manager. But when I said, hey, we're going to do this, I'm not going to hire the next team member for the SEO team. You are, right? And so he's built the SEO team, handpicked, right? And I obviously we have conversations back and forth, but he leads that, right? Same thing with the CSM, same thing with the ads, same thing with the web developers, right? And then Connor helps facilitate that as well. But really, it started with SEO, then it went to web dev, and then it went to ads, and then CSM, right? So those are really the core pieces for us. And then moving forward, it's setters and sales people and things like that. But again, each of those people, some of them aren't necessarily at the point of leading yet, but we're prepping them to be that. And that was a big conversation we had at the end of the last year and the beginning of this year of, hey, like, what do you want out of this role? And if you do want to become that, that leader, and manage more responsibility, like, this is what we need to do to get you there. And this is what we expect ultimately to continue growing in the company. And so if you build leaders up in every avenue of the business, I mean, the sky's the limit on what you can accomplish, and then the freedom that you can create from it.
Okay, I like that. Now tell the people in kind of conjunction with that. Now, while you're raising up and building these leaders, the company still has to be handled. So kind of walk us through, like, how are you balancing both? Because some people are like, "Man, I'm paying you this money, you just need to figure it out, and
Mm.
I'm gonna just chase sales." But I can say, having worked with you, like, you did it at a steady pace to where it's manageable, versus I think the misconception is, like, if you don't get to 1 million in 1 year, like, you're doing it wrong. So, like, kind of walk us through, maybe, like, why'd you take your time with it? Why were you more steady with it to get where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously learn a lot of lessons, either route, right? Whether you grow fast or slow. But again, it may be I've found more value in building up people and seeing more of that, like, organic growth, um, than just kind of like sheer force, maybe through paid ads, and just kind of like willy nilly, moving fast, and trying to add pieces. Cause I feel like that's a lot of times where it fails. I mean, I don't know of a scenario where you can build up a leader in like 2, 3 months. You know what I mean? And so, we've been super happy with the rate, or the flow of things, and how, our CSM has been with us a year now, um, and has learned a ton throughout the business. And now it's like, okay, now let's get to that next step. Like, it doesn't take 2, 3 months. it might take 2-3 years. Um, but again, if you build that culture up along with it, they'll never leave, right? You see so many businesses where they just churn employees faster than they even churn clients, and that's not scalable, right? That's where you have to. That's where you, as a business owner, you're putting out so many fires. It's not necessarily client related; it's operationally related, and we see it with our customers that obviously aren't in the marketing agent, the marketing industry. So it's not just a marketing agency issue; it's just a business issue in general.
Okay. Tell us now. I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's got to be some secrets that you have and all these things." I know one of these secrets is you're involved in a mastermind group. Tell us the value of being connected with the right people and how that could either accelerate, slow you down, help you, give you ideas, or whatever your experience is with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in groups, masterminds, whatever you want to call them, since I started, and they all have their own place in your journey. Sometimes you outgrow them, right, and move on to the next one. But you just have to find the right room and right group of people to push you to that next level. I mean, it's been astronomical in the growth of our company. And sometimes we're in multiple. We're not just in one. Maybe one's related to more mindset and business and family and faith and things like that. Or maybe it's just sales or things, lead generation. Maybe it's fulfillment. You want to put yourself in the place where you're called for in that season, but one that's going to push you. So, I mean, uh, it's been huge. It's been huge, and you get out what you put in for sure. I've certainly been in groups where I'm like, oh man, I didn't put in nearly as what I needed to, so I didn't get out as much. Um, but I would tell people all the time, and I even tell our clients, they're like, hey, should we get a coach? Should we do this? And I tell them, I say, hey, this is what we spend on coaching every year. This is what we do. Put that into perspective for yourself. Um, there's a lot of ego in business in general. And I think if you can put that
Break that
aside,
down. Break that down for us. What do you
yeah,
mean by that?
I think obviously we live in a country where you could do just about anything, and people are so tight, and they think that their way is the way, or they can't be open about their success and help another business, and they look down on others, and there's just toxicity. It's across the board in every industry. And I think once you let go of that and open yourself up and realize that yes, you can win along with helping someone else win, that's where the real breakthroughs happen, because people look at it as black and white. Business is business, but business isn't business. There's your personal matters involved, right? Your family, your faith, everything that ties into growing a successful business, whatever that success looks like to you. That's where getting tied into the right group is super important.
Okay. Looking back, what's a move you made that you think changed the game for your growth? So, like, I was doing pretty well, but when I did this thing, I feel like that's when we went to a different level.
It's always been delegation. Um, whether it was delegating to an SEO person or delegating to another brand, right? And so I realized very early on that um, I didn't, not that I didn't want to be like the face of the business, but I was very good at the back end operations and creating that team. And so that's where, shout out to Gabe, right? I partnered up with him to really be that driving force of, the face of the business and the lead generation. Um, During that time, or still to this day, like it's been a huge difference maker in just the growth of the business, going from 2 to 3 clients to what we're at now. So just again, letting go, and that might not be lead generation. Maybe that's sales, maybe that's operations, maybe that's specifically SEO or ads or things like that. But just letting go, I think, in many different aspects, has been really the difference maker over time.
Okay. Okay. Now, can't have you on here and we don't talk about numbers. So let's jump into this. So, easy question. When did you realize you needed more than just like the basic bookkeeping or accounting? I technically can't answer this question.
Probably pretty early on, because I don't like numbers. And again, I learned, and again, this goes back to working with my dad. Like he was a I'm gonna do it all. Nobody can do it better than me necessarily, and I wanted to do the opposite. Where yeah, I probably did the TurboTax thing the first year or two, but I was like, there's no way that this is scalable. Let's delegate it out, right? And that's where pretty early on I was like, yeah, we got to make this move, and it just made sense. So I think I don't know, 20 30K, something like that a month, was around that point.
Hey, bro. I remember because I was like, oh, he's doing pretty solid. What was your, this is a funny question. What was your first big money move that made you feel like, yeah, I'm here? Because, sometimes it's like, oh, I
Mm.
paid for my family to go on this vacation, or I took us all to Disney World and we still have, like, what was that one thing where you did and you were like, yeah, I done made it?
Probably moving to Tennessee 3 years ago, and having the flexibility of just paying something off right away. Whether it's moving costs or closing costs, and not having like a burden over my head. Of being in more debt. Um, that was probably it.
Okay. Tell us a recent win, it can be big or small, that reminded you of like, I'm glad this is like why we're still in the game. This is why we do this.
I don't know if I can pick just one.
That's fine. You can name multiple.
Um, I mean, again, big culture team guy internally. Um, internally, one of our employees, said, um, they've never had a break this long, a paid break this long, and they're super happy and grateful. And so like we don't get that just like once a year. We get that probably every other month, it seems, where team members are like super grateful to be here. And um, that's a bigger win than any revenue target or anything like that for me. Because again, building people's is the goal. Client wise, one of the recent wins was when a client said, hey, I was able to take 2 weeks off. Actually, 3 weeks off last year, and the business ran by itself. So obviously, our goal, like my goal, is to do that. But now, when I can help other businesses do that, I mean, again, way bigger than revenue for me, because from a family faith, perspective first, that's that's what we want, right? We want to have these healthy growing businesses, not necessarily the wowing numbers that ultimately we've seen it where people making $1 million and they don't make any profit, right? Or they're working 80 hours a week. um
Yes.
and it's that's draining and it's sad to see. So those are probably the biggest wins, internally and then externally for clients.
What is one habit or routine that's made the biggest difference in how you show up as a business?
Reading my Bible. So using that as setting the tone for the day. I used to come onto the computer every day, first thing in the morning, and looking back, those were my worst days. Like it would just be putting out fires left and right, just because I would put myself right into work mode, looking at emails and all that stuff. So setting the tone with reading my Bible every morning, and having that lead the way through the next task, um, through my workout, through my team meeting, through my client calls. Um, it's really centered me. And if you're not faith based, maybe it's not your Bible, maybe it's a personal book, maybe it's just music, but just like starting your day off right in a place that you can get centered, and then have that lead your focus for the day. And that's been huge for me.
Okay. Last couple of questions. Now, I know this, so we know, but if y'all don't know, Tyler's not just talking from theory. 7 figures, you've done it. Tell the people 3 things they need to be doing to get there. And then, of course, three things you shouldn't do or you need to cut. Because, of course, again, I know you've done it in a steady way, but like now that you've done it and achieved that mark, what is what are some things where you're like, okay, yeah, if you want to hit this number, you definitely got to be doing this. But hey, you may be struggling to hit it because you're not willing to stop doing or cut these things.
Well, it isn't necessarily about stopping it or cutting it. Some of it maybe, but I mean, the biggest one is delegating for me at least, and that's the biggest lesson throughout the years. And just letting go of doing everything. Right, that's first and foremost.
But it's
Um,
so hard because can't nobody do it like me. And what if they mess it up? And what if we lose a client because they didn't do it the way I wanted them to?
yeah, it's tough for me. I don't think it's hard. It's how it's your mindset around it, and that's such a limiting belief of um, nobody can do it like I can, because that's just you not leading your people to become who you need them to be, so you can do the next thing to grow your business. Sorry, I might be cutting a little too deep for some
Let's
people,
say
but
that again for some people because that was they may not like that. I'll say it again.
it's a limiting belief for people, right? And if you're not able to grow people, I don't know what I said, to be honest with you. If you're not able to grow people in the right direction, then you're not going to be able to grow your business. So a lot of people will take that as, you can't do it, so I'm going to fire you and find the next person. They take that route rather than going, okay, what did I not do to get this person success? Right. So again, that's part of ego, letting that go as a business owner with your employees, right? Because at the end of the day, business owners have the best job, but the hardest job. And no matter what you think, it is always your fault. That's probably one of the hardest lessons I've learned. Always your fault. I don't care if the employee messed up. What did you not do to prepare them? Right. And so that's the biggest thing, letting go. And then obviously, prepping that person. Um, but two, like, you can't prep that person if you're not prepped first. So if you're not stepping up to be the person to take that person to the next level, that's on you. Right. And I've learned that a lot, especially going through the groups I've been in, where there's levels to this stuff. And you can't get to that next level healthy and scalable, if you don't become, more than you are now. So I don't know if that hit three things or not, but
I feel like you said a lot right there, sir. There's a lot there. Okay, last question. If you could go back in time to 18 or 22-year-old Tyler, and you know every
Mhm.
single thing you know up to the second, you only got 30 seconds to get in the time machine and go back. What do you tell him?
Don't change a thing.
That's it.
That's it. Don't change a thing. So I mean, listen, we 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 as a society and business owners especially look for shortcuts. And sure, there's amazing information out there, and you can find those little shortcuts to make the learning curve a little faster. But I believe you have to go through your own trials, to get to where you are supposed to go, not somebody else. Um, and that's again how you build a scalable and stable business, going through you know um, your errors, and learning from them, because the way I learn is not going to be the same way someone else learns. Right. And again, I think going back to you having to be, the person to get to that next level, you have to get to that point, and any tool or shortcut may not do that. Right. So I think that's where you see a lot of businesses hit maybe numbers and then fall back down really quick. Um, and that's something I never really wanted to do. I'll be honest with you. We kind of did it at one point, um, maybe 2 years ago or so, and I never want to do that again. So, lesson learned.
Okay. All right, so let's go on and wrap this up again. In case the people want to connect, oh, we got some projects, or we just want to pick your brain more, or whatever that is. Tell them again, name of company, who you help, and whatever else. This is your time.
Yeah, again, Tyler Lordi with Crit Media Group and Detailing Growth. We help some local contracting businesses, but mainly auto detailing businesses that do PPF, ceramic tint, wraps, all that stuff. An array of marketing services and even some sales coaching and consulting. So, um, depending on the niche you're in, you can go to gritmediagroup.com or detailinggrowth.com and find us there.
All right, y'all. So again, these are the types of things that you as a marketing agency, as a business owner, want to start thinking through. Like he talked about, what is your culture like with your team? Are you building up other leaders, and are you taking the responsibility to ensure that what they are learning and producing is what you can, how can you best support them to succeed? So there's that part, and that it doesn't have to be the quick acceleration journey. Sometimes slow and steady but predictable is the right way to go. Bringing team members with you, starting with the same people that you currently have, is a great thing. But just taking that personal responsibility of how can I make sure this person is successful? What other things can I do to make their role better? Because, like he said, it's always going to come back to you as the owner, regardless of what they do. So, hopefully, you heard some of these things and they made sense and they stood out, especially that last part at the end where he just started, spitting the ether. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the episode. Again, if you want to connect with Tyler, he's already told you how. Did you tell him like a preferred social media, maybe like LinkedIn, Facebook? Which one?
You can always find me on Facebook. Unfortunately, I live in that thing. So, yeah.
All right. So if
Friend
you need
request
them
me
or
or
want
send
to
me a
reach
DM.
out, connect, get them to come to your event, your podcast, your stage, reach out to him. I'm sure he'd make that time. So with that being said, guys, this is what we're doing in season 4. We're bringing you people who've done it the right way, who've built something that will last, and who are willing to just come on here and just be open and vulnerable with their journey and how they got there and the things they learned over time, so that you can hopefully maybe skip some of those, or maybe this is the solution to some of those roadblocks you have. So with that being said, until the next episode, as always, take care of yourself. Peace.